Good morning, everybody. How are we all doing? I have a guest. Hey, Ichabod. It's nice of you to join me. It's been kind of empty on stage the last couple weeks.
Well, it is early. Really goddamn early.
Yeah, for some people, I guess it is really. Are you an East Coaster? Are you a West Coaster?
I am Central Standard Time.
Okay, so you're 1 hour behind Eastern. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's still kind of early.
Yeah, it's about 8 a.m.
And we've got some people in the chat. Hello, peeps. Good morning, TA. Good morning, Adam. Mediocrity's Maze. I'm going to have a hard time saying that. I'll get it eventually. Daryl, how you doing? How is everyone today? Time zones are weird, but we will figure them out or continue on not worrying. But we have a game to play, and I'm so excited because, and it's my fault that I haven't gotten guests. I haven't pushed or asked, or I just thought if people wanted to be, they would come along. But I've been really pushing to try and bring some more diversity of opinion, because I'm sure people don't just come here to hear me talk.
Yeah.
Maybe they do. I don't know.
Yeah, possible.
But I have this amazing game, and you haven't yet been on, so this is cool. I love new guests. They can always tell me what they think of it, and whether they enjoy it or don't enjoy it, or improvements to make, as well as the audience. This game has 18 topics. Each topic has a statement or category below it. And we will discuss for, what is it? 6 minutes and 40 seconds? Where's Ryan? We will discuss for a few minutes at a time. The timer's up there about the topic. Timer's just kind of to keep the conversation flowing. Let us get into it.
Alrighty.
Welcome to the Great Debate.
I probably did mean commodity. I probably spelled it wrong. It happens.
Yeah, I noticed that. I figured it was a pun.
I will have to fix that. Maybe I'll leave it. I'm a numbskull anyway. So that people will understand. Look at my name. Oh, look, he spelled it wrong. Wrong word. Oh, he's a numbskull anyway. No worries. So like I said, there are 18 topics. If there's no guests, I allow the chat to choose what we talk about, and then I ramble for a few minutes. But loving having a guest. It is all up to you to choose every topic that comes up today. Where would you like to start on this board?
Well, let's go ahead and start with let's go with the hot topic of politics. Might as well start at the top.
Should a political group be shunned publicly for their actions?
Well, that would depend entirely on the actions themselves, wouldn't it?
Well, this one obviously comes from a current media conversation point that Maxine Waters put out, that if you see somebody in Trump's committee at a fuel station or in a movie theater, that you need to call them out and create a crowd. And this kind of questions whether it's right or wrong to shun a political group for actions of that group.
Well, if you get right down to it, let's take this concept. What Maxine Waters said, obviously, absolutely ridiculous. Don't target a person who is in a governmental system because they happen to be working for dude A or dude B or chick C. You know, it doesn't really freaking matter. But let's say Antifa. See some dude walking around with a big Antifa flag on his back. You know, be like, dude, terrorist group.
Yeah.
But the best way I can really put it is if you're going to sit there and broadcast the fact that you're a freaking terrorist. It's same mentality of if somebody came up with a great big ass ISIS flag on their back.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're just like, I super support ISIS. It's just like, no, dude, screw you.
So
you might be a prick.
here's a question, and it's a weird conversion point, and we saw in Nazi Germany. And hi, Raven, how are you doing? Welcome. Politics is only one of the topics. We saw in Nazi Germany where the Nazis would wear armbands declaring their affiliation with the Nazis, and they forced Jewish to wear armbands or indicator marks that said they were Jewish. We saw in the almost the same time where the KKK would come out with armbands or hoodies, oh, not hoodies, but the hoods, whatever. Different affiliations have found ways to represent their party publicly, whether it be a band or a logo, an emblem, or an affiliation mark that they wear or carry on them. And we have both socially and politically shunned these groups for the actions the groups have taken and the affiliations of the people in these groups. So would it be wrong to do the same thing to a political party because they call out and represent that party?
Well, I think the real word I actually take issue with here is shunned. I don't want to shun anybody. Well, there's a couple of people, but they're people and individuals. But the concept of, like, let's say the Democratic Party, and like a guy high up in the Democratic Party is like, we shouldn't like insert group here. It's one of those situations of, dude, you're the dick.
It does become a social justice movement where you're going to say, okay, well, you're a Republican who voted for Trump, therefore you're just as bad as somebody else in the KKK who's Republican and heavily supported Trump. Because you're all in this same group, you're just as bad as the worst person in the group.
Yeah, which in general is a ridiculous premise. Because let's say I vote for, like, Billy Bob Thornton for president. I don't know what the hell Billy Bob Thornton's going to do as president. I just voted for the guy because, let's say on the other side, it was Adolf Hitler with a vagina.
True.
The lesser of two evils, man. I'm going to go with the person that's going to not burn everything to the ground. And if you're going to come after me because I didn't want the world to burn, you're the dick.
Right. Now, this is a really hard conversation to have because on one side, you have the people that go, yes, this is how it works. We have to speak up, speak against the ideas, the concepts, and the people pushing these ideas that we disagree with. On the other hand, again, to make this comparison, is it right to socially or politically shun a group of people because of somebody who's in the group who thinks something on the other end of the scale? And we can say that shunning Nazis, literal Nazis, those who have the red armband and the swastika and, you know, literal KKK who walk around with their hood on, we can say that's okay. Republicans, people who hold office in government, present that they're Republicans and they push for usually Republican views. However, just because you're a Republican doesn't mean you agree with all Republican views, but you're a part of that group, and it becomes really hard if you're standing up for that group to say, okay, well, if you're in that group, I have to hold you to a different standard. But then look at somebody who has a Nazi armband. Okay, well, you're in that group. You may not hold quite firm standpoints, but you're in that group, so I have to hold you to that standard. Do you see what I mean? There's arguments on all sides of this, and you have to take into account those who are saying that it's good that she's doing this because it's putting down the bad things being done from their viewpoint.
But it's also attacking people that, in some of these situations, are absolutely powerless to do anything about it.
Oh, I agree. But they're a part of the group.
But that's the problem. That's identity politics. That's that group mentality stuff. You can't function on that. If you see a group that abdicates as its baseline, like let's say the KKK does, its baseline is something like absolute hatred, then at that point you've just got to, take them on their word that that's what they believe.
Okay. And with that, our time is kind of ended. Interesting way for this topic to go. But there are 17 more. And now that you've gotten through one, you can attempt, maybe successfully, to gauge where to go on the board.
Well, I'm one of those people that will just pick things at random. But just for the sake of fun and, maybe make Raven happy, let's go with General's topic 1. What the fuck or fuck the world?
If we had a real-life purge in America, what would be the outcome? For the record, I still haven't seen any of the Purge movies, but we'll go with it anyway.
Well, let's just go with the basic concept of explaining what the Purge really was. Basically, for about 12 hours, all crime becomes legal, provided you don't attack like a bank or a governmental institution. I mean, there would be a lot less political disagreement, I guess. Overall, I think it would be just massive. One of the major things that people would do wouldn't have anything to do with violence. A lot of people think that it would just be like absolute chaos and death and violence, just everybody shooting at everybody. Why would anybody do that? Probably the most common crimes would be basic looting, because you're completely forgiven. You have amnesty. So looting, gambling, prostitution, anything where you can exchange money in hands. In our current society, yeah, the Purge would just end with a bunch of petty crimes being done for the hell of it.
Not to exclude the fact that there would probably be associations of people who just go around trying to take out those in their way so that they can legally go about things afterward.
Yeah.
So if you empty a house of people, that house is probably going to be for sale.
Yeah, and considering the neighborhood, you might be able to get it cheaper.
Right. So, somebody in a city with 30 or 40 people clearing out houses could buy up a city pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. But here's the really interesting concept that I never really understood about the Purge. If I steal a car during the Purge, get the keys, all that, and take that car, after the Purge, does that car just stay mine, or do I have to give it back?
That's a good question.
Because if the crime itself is forgiven, then how do we establish ownership of that item?
Interesting. Define purge. See, yeah, that's another question. Honestly, to me, before watching the movies, just seeing the previews, just thinking about the concept and idea, when I think a purge, I think the free ability for society to make its decisions on removing those it believes does not belong. So when I think of purge, I think, 100 people find a local pedo address as listed by the government institutions and, firebombing the house. Not that I'm condoning these activities. This is just what I see as people that get the chance to remove those from society they think are harmful. Now, obviously, this would come out on politicians and people who speak publicly, things like that. But in my mind, they would first go for the biggest threat to them. So you'd see families team up and go against pedophiles and try to remove them from neighborhoods.
Well, here's the easiest way to really describe the Purge. This is from the movie itself. This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual Purge, sanctioned by the U.S. government. Weapons of Class 4, that's basically no high explosives or military-sanctioned weapons, and lower, have been authorized for use during the Purge. All other weapons are restricted. Government officials of ranking 10 have been granted immunity from the Purge and shall not be harmed. Commencing at the siren, any and all crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 continuous hours. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable until tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., when the Purge concludes. blessed by our new founding fathers and America, a nation reborn. May God be with you all. That's the easiest way to explain it. Basically, all crime is legal. There is going to be no help. So basically, live on your own for 12 hours, and if you get shot, call us in the morning.
Fires and killing, or hiding and fighting to stay alive. Those are the two sides I see in that.
Yeah, basically.
And
in the concept of the movie, they release a bunch of, like, psychopaths to go on the street and start shooting at people, but overall, it's really just, like I said, most of the stuff that would be done would be white-collar crime.
Yeah. Until you get people that... What would worry me, and this is where probably the movie focuses, again, I haven't seen it, in areas like New York, Philadelphia, Washington, Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, in large city areas, you run into factions of people that live in the lower economic areas of the city, and they consistently fight each other, but their worry with fighting each other is taking each other on and being seen or caught doing so. So obviously you would see a huge population decline in large cities where gangs, and this would be hopeful, this would probably be an intentional outcome of it, would go out on the street to fight each other while they have the opportunity and see who wins the battle. And it would seriously depreciate the numbers of these gangs, I think.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there would be some benefits to the concept. Personally, I'd say sell licenses to it, because if you sell licenses to it, then everybody gets like a boost in the, let's say, all the benefits of the purge, like all the purchases of licenses and stuff. That just goes into infrastructure, so we can rebuild after this bullshit.
Yeah. That's an awesome idea. Put money back into the society, because you know you're going to have to deal with the losses from doing this, so there should be a licensing. You want to participate in the purge, here's what you do: you fill out your name and address, your house gets put up on this map that people can come by and take you on. It becomes a battle.
I think you could get the same enjoyment out of the concept of selling like tickets to gladiatorial combat between death row inmates, but
Later, TC. Thanks for joining us. All right. Interesting, fun, comedic topic. Where do you think we should go next?
Oh, I don't think there's any way I can't say school next.
Ooh, school. School it is. Would it be possible to break grade schools down into separate education fields? So this is let me start by saying this is a really hard question to write. We currently have what's called grade school, which is in most places kindergarten through 12, depending on the region you're in. And then we have trade schools, VOTEC schools, colleges, and they teach different levels depending on what type of school you go. So if you want to be a doctor, you got to start in maybe a community college and then move up and get different degrees at different colleges. If we broke down grade school into component parts of education, and let's say started teaching younger kids specific sets of arithmetic, specific sets of concept learning for young kids, and that went until a certain age, and then they could opt into what type of next level school to go into, where we would call like middle or high school. We would give them more of an option to treat it more like a college situation, where they can opt in and out of classes and start declaring focuses and get more intense learning where it would suit them and not where it'd be so generalized.
So it is possible, but let's start with the concept of 10th grade. Starting at 10th grade, give a field of electives that would give college credits. And with those college credits, you would be able to transfer those credits into a college course of your choosing. But you would have to have stuff like VOTEC classes, like nursing, engineering, automotive repair, just all the various trade schools as well. And I think the real
by the way,
challenge, yeah, no, I know. The real challenge of it, though, is getting students interested in less glamorous fields. And, like, it's going to be real hard to get somebody into accounting as a trade school. Nobody wants to be an accountant.
I don't honestly think so. I think the problem right now is the way we build up education is you need to sit and get the most education you can, because without education you're not going to get anywhere. And that's usually pretty right. And statistically it's correct depending on the courses you take. The more education you have, the higher your possible yearly pay and overall lifetime income. However, I tend to think that, or I tend to go by the concept that different people have a different level of ability and intellect. And while some people are capable of being doctors, but not necessarily inclined to be a doctor, other people are inclined to be a doctor, but not necessarily capable. And this goes across all fields, obviously. Some people will go to school with the intention and the inclination to become something and then not quite make it. And end up being a trash pickup person because they can't find anything else with their degree that they're suited for. So I almost think that we need to start redefining how we do education. And we start in the lower grades, breaking it down into an individual structure where kids learn conceptual learning. You learn basic math, addition, subtraction, all that. You learn a little bit about science. You don't so much get into history because that kind of gets into specified fields. You learn about how things work and why things work and how things add up and how to speak and use language. That would be the most important part to focus on in younger kids. Once they learn all that and adapt to learning new words and start to crunch on this, and you get the understanding of math, you can build on science once they understand math. But if you're trying to teach them science and math at the same time, they're not going to understand all the science because they might not know all the math yet. So then the later years where we start teaching history, science, government, policy, and things like that needs to be in the early teens, up towards maybe the mid-teens, and then you break them out into more VOTEC and what was the other one? Hands-on type learning programs to build from there, and then college from there on.
Well, I think the only way I can describe their name is Sparkle Bomb. Has an interesting point in the chat. The problem is the world makes celebrities who are famed for doing nothing other than being stupid appear glamorous, and hardworking people seem dull and boring. So children will aspire to do nothing other than be stupid.
Right, but you'll be able to pick them out. They won't continue as far in an educational field if they're not as inclined to get through. You're kind of forced to take school and learn a certain amount of education. But if you're only forced to learn the basics and then you think, oh, I'm going to do this, you realize you're going to have to go back and take the next couple of years to make any progression. And then, again, the next couple of years. But you make more decision points for people to break away. Right now, saying somebody has a high school or high school equivalency education really doesn't say that much. Because depending on where the school was, or what the focus of education was, or what the minimum testing requirements in that state were to pass that equivalency exam, is really how smart or how inclined to do something they are. Sometimes, and you see it a lot right now, schools are fudging grades to get people graduated because they need to get them graduated.
Yeah, the No Child Left Behind stuff has led to a real detriment in society. I mean, I hate to be that guy, but when I was in high school, I know how to take tests really well, but that's about it, because the sad truth of the matter is We were taught to take tests, not actually learn anything.
What age bracket are you in, if you don't mind me asking?
Me, I am 29.
Okay, so you were in the you're about 5 years or so, almost 6, younger than I am. So you were in the wave post me. All of the way they added up your scores in your testing and the end of the year exams and your final graduate exams and everything changed right as I was graduating. So the year following me, where I was, had higher test requirements, whereas the test requirements on my graduating years were maintained at a lower average. It was more about the scores we got in classes rather than the tests we took at the end. I watched the class following me as all of the 2 or 3 classes following me are the ones that got it the hardest, as everything in their education started converting over to how to take the test. But I got to see some of that, and it's atrocious.
Oh yeah, no, a lot of kids didn't get the chance to be as good as they could have been because of that act.
Yeah. And I perfectly agree with that. I was one of those where I wasn't unintelligent, but I could sleep through some classes because they were just dumbed down to the point where I wasn't getting anything from the class. And it would be nice if the education system would realize that we're focusing at the wrong points of the wrong time in education. We're trying to stretch everything out and push everything in. And it's almost like we're spaghettifying the information into long strands that you have to consume instead of just giving you this big block and letting you get through it, and then giving you another big block. But here we are. We're back at the board. I would like to acknowledge chat. I'm sorry if I haven't. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We're not done yet. We still have a half an hour. We need to completely stop immigration from most places before we consider doing any of this. There's a lot of different things that have to be done for anything to work in any situation. And when people think making a decision to change something is as simple as just changing that one thing, you're not actually considering what you're talking about. Because for any individual law or freedom or anything like that, other laws that already consider it have to be thought. So when you write a law, you have to write in how it affects the laws preceding it. And that gets complicated. And people from the places that are smarter and smarter need to be able to conform or fuck off. Well, yeah, there you go. That's being blunt. Who doesn't want to be a little blunt? Speaking of blunt, next topic.
Well, Midnight Raven gave us a suggestion, and since they've been bored this whole time, let's go with it. Let's go with sex.
Oh, sex. Let me start over. Is the priority to fulfill your partner's desires or satisfy yours? Dun, dun.
I have a theory on this, and correct me if I'm wrong. I am a man. It is infinitely easier to make me come than it is to make a woman come.
Yes.
When
I think I heard testifying support in the background.
Yeah, well, the thing of it is like, I'm going to come. If I sit there and stick my dick in something, it's going to spurt eventually. There's no maybe, there's no ifs, no ands, nor buts. It's gonna happen.
There might be a but.
There might be a but, but not that kind of but. But the point of it is I would think if you were asking a woman this question, you might get a different answer. But all I need is something warm, wet, and ready. I don't need 14 to 15 minutes of pre-sex before the sexy time begins. So in my particular case, it fulfilled my partner's desires. And the reason for that is because when it gets to the point of who's gonna come, better if we both come than just me. Because if it's just me, then they complain, and I don't want to listen to I don't want to listen to you, bitch. I'm sorry.
Okay, so with all fairness, I have the way I go about it, and as much as I know I probably shouldn't divulge my personal bedroom secrets, but my wife's not here, so I should be okay. I go about it with the intention of making sure, because you're right, sometimes you don't know. You could do the same thing you did the day before and it won't have any effect, and there's no way she's coming from that. You got to do something totally different. You don't know what to do. You just got to make sure you make her happy. So in the first place, I always start by, whether it be orally or however, I try to make sure she comes first. And then anything that happens from there can't get worse. I could make her come 7 more times. Doesn't matter. She came at least once. Now I can come at least once. Fair trade.
Equality, bitches.
And that's how I feel. And now don't get me wrong. I've kind of pushed that limit some days. I don't know if you've... This is an awesome conversation to have. We got a couple more minutes. But I don't know if you had those days, but you get her happy and you realize, okay, she's come. Now it's my turn. And you just keep going. And then 5 passes and 6 passes. And all of a sudden she's looking at you like, you better get done quick because you're starting to hurt me. And you're like, but I'm enjoying myself.
It gets to the point where she's looking up at you like, dude, I've got shit to do today. Finish with your hand. But still, you're gonna fucking finish.
Yeah, you're gonna end up getting something. It's just, we're gonna come. Don't worry, we're going to. It's just that logic of knowing that you get her to that place before you kind of opens up that restraint of, okay, now I can do what I want. I'm gonna
yeah, basically.
Yeah. And I'm sure your wife agrees that, once, I know my wife agrees, once she comes that first time, it just kind of gets better. A lot of times it just gets better for her because now you're just going to town, not worried about how anything goes. So she's just enjoying you having at it.
Yeah, I think it gets down to that point, honestly, of basically, if it comes down to it, I'm gonna come eventually, so why try to be the only sprinter that finishes the race?
Now, alternatively, because we do still have a couple of minutes, alternatively, there's also that sometimes women do that to you, and they'll put that focus on making sure you get pleasured, and then you're sitting there like, but what did you... Did you come while I was rubbing on you, or whatever the case may be? And it's like, no. Well, I want you to be happy too, don't I? Well, sure, but I'm okay. No, you're not. I'm still good. Hop on. And you do your best to try and make it equally beneficial. Now, however, equally beneficial means the man comes at least once, the woman comes at least once. It doesn't matter if the man comes once and the woman comes 10 times. That's still equally beneficial. It doesn't sound fair, but it's equally beneficial.
Might not be fair, but everybody walks away from that situation happy.
Right! Well,
but
yeah, if everybody comes at least once, everybody walks away happy.
And this is going to instantly alienate your chat from being able to relate to me. But one of the things that irritates me beyond all recognition is oral. I do not like oral performed on me. Ooh. I don't know why. But I can't get off on it. I don't know why it's not arousing, but it's fucking not. It's nasty and the sound bothers me. It may just be a byproduct of, like, the women who have blown me. But when I hear the sound every few seconds, no, we're good.
She's doing it wrong. She's got to learn how to breathe.
Yeah.
Although,
well, it's not.
I can say sometimes if you're in that right kind of vigorous and aggressive mood, a little bit of choking sound doesn't bother you.
Yeah, I think it's just the women I've been with have a nasty tendency of going a little too far down, and then I'm not long, but I'm thick, so blocks the whole goddamn airway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it hits, it's just like, and I'm just like, nope, stop. That's disturbing.
Well, I hope the Midnight Raven feels better now that we've moistened the room up just a little bit, haven't we?
Oh,
Welcome,
yeah, real
Bobcat.
moist with the sound of. It sounds like a bad surgery video, man. Have you ever seen them like live action?
I had too much tequila.
Have you ever seen one of those like live surgery videos where they don't like dub over the audio, and all you hear is
Yeah. Oh.
that's what it fucking sounds like, and it's disgusting. Sorry if I'm ruining blowjobs for you.
Well, I'm satisfied with the ones I get. We need to move on, though. I think the next topic would be appropriate about now.
Well, why don't you pick one this time? I picked the first.
It's all on you. I cannot pick these. I program them.
All right. Let's go with the LGBTQ alphabet. I will not put the fucking plus in there. It's not happening.
Thinking you are something you are not is usually a sign of mental illness. Why change and push for normalcy?
Oh, you picked the right guess for this one. Don't push for normalcy of that kind of behavior. Like, the thing of it is, I will allow the concept of a trans person around me because, you know, whatever, they can't really do a whole lot for that. But when it comes to I'm an otherkin, I am not putting up with that shit. I will bitch slap you till you call yourself Sally. Because there's a point of where I am the child of Spock and Kirk, who are also furries from another universe, and I am thus a Spock Kirk. No, you're not. You're fucking insane.
At some point, and I don't know what it is, maybe I'm in that generation where everything just changed in front of me and I just watched it go by and ignored it for the longest time. But I lived in towns where we would have the local crazy people. And the local crazy people included, but not limited to, Crazy Cowboy Man, who took two, what are they called? Pop guns. 2 pop gun 6-shooters. Put them on his belt, wore a hat and the entire getup, no matter what the temperature was. Long sleeves, spurs, big boots, all that. 50, 60, 70-year-old guy, big old white beard, gray hair, cowboy hat, boots, and cap guns walking through town. Every single day, same places, same time. We had Crazy Lady, who waves at every car. No reason, not asking for money, just finds a spot to stand, roughly in the same area every day, and just waves at every person who goes by, smiling. Burnt to a crisp from the sun, but waves at everybody, smiling. And I've been in several different towns, and you always kind of identify the crazy people, and then the local businesses know them as Crazy Bob, or Crazy Joe, or Crazy Cowboy, or whatever it may be. And you understood these were people who were a little different. They weren't bad. They didn't necessarily fit in with everybody else, but they weren't horrible people. And now you see somewhat, and this isn't to degrade the LGBTQ movement. Some people being legitimate, I don't mean to intentionally put them down, but the seemingly illegitimate ones who just say, grow a beard, wear a tank top and a dress and high heels and walk through town. You're the crazy dress man. You're the one the businesses look at and go, yeah, that's crazy dress man. He goes to CVS every day to get his hormones.
Yeah, we have that guy. That guy is, oh God, what's his name? Oh, Crazy Dan. Crazy Dan walks around through, down in Lawrence, just on Mass Street. Full dress, bald fucking head. A mannequin in a baby carriage. Just the top half. Just the torso. I guess he couldn't afford the legs and arms. and rolls it around, and it's his wife. People talk to it to make him happy. You are the crazy man.
I wasn't calling you a woman. I was asking you if you were a woman, and no, I haven't lived in Florida. It's one of the places I haven't visited, and I don't know if I want to anymore.
Oh, Christ. Oh, I actually have an interesting story about one of these crazy people. There was a guy, and I don't know in your travels if you have met full-grown LARP guy.
Oh, a few.
This guy is like 43, walking around in full chainmail armor.
Yes.
I don't know where he got it, but he walks around in full chainmail armor, and he will throw little bags of patchouli at people and scream fireball.
Do you know the most common places I tend to find the crazy people are in old towns?
Well, it makes sense for Lawrence. It's kind of an older town.
Well, when I was in Sacramento, there's your everyday crazy people who just, they got their head crooked and tilted sideways, and all of a sudden they look at one place at nobody at all and scream profanities and then stop and walk on and continue on talking to themselves and bobbing their head. And
yeah, as if
those are normal
happened.
crazies. Then you get into these, like, old town Sacramento or certain areas in Los Angeles or San Francisco where you get these crazies that just kind of sit on the corner or walk back and forth down a street all dressed up. And they could be either preaching something or just trying to talk to everybody or any number of different things. You never know sometimes. And those are the weird crazies.
Oh yeah, you deal with the weird crazies all the time, but like to finish out that story, so I'm going down Mass Street, going by oh, what the hell is it called? The Jimmy John's that was down there. This is like a year ago, and out of nowhere, because I didn't know about this guy, because I don't live in Lawrence, I live in Baldwin. I go to Lawrence to get groceries and shit, so I don't know this guy. Freaking little one of those stupid cloth pouch things pegs me in the back of the head, and I hear somebody screaming fireball. So I'm like, oh god, did somebody hit me with something on fire? And I look down and I see a little thing. I pick it up and smell it's fucking patchouli. So I start chasing this motherfucker, and the cops stop me. The me of the two people. I'm wearing a t-shirt and a pair of fucking jeans. This dude is in goddamn chainmail, booking it down the road away from me. What the shit? Oh god. And I get stopped, and they explain the guy to me. I'm like, oh, okay. I give him the little bag, and I'm like, I hate fucking patchouli, but at least I didn't get arrested, because if I'd have caught him, I'd have kicked his ass.
Oh yeah.
Have a sword.
Unless you're a local and you know, hey, no, that's just Joe. He does that every day.
The hard part about this dude did not have like cheap armor. This was high quality chainmail. It wasn't like made out of shitty, like the stupid rings you get out of a vending machine. It was actual chain links. So this guy had to have at least at some point had a job where he could drop a couple of grand on chainmail.
You know, it's amazing how some of these people have insane amounts of money.
I know, right? Why
well,
do crazy
they're
people
taught
have so
how
much
to
money?
put it in an account, and they're taught how to leave it and only spend it on certain things. And then they only deem certain things important enough to get, and then they just focus on that. So then the rest of their money just sits there.
But yeah, no. If you ever swing by through Lawrence, Kansas, on Mass Street, we got buskers. We got the people that like play music and stuff for money. But if they're wearing a jester's cap, don't go anywhere fucking near them. They're insane.
If Kansas, and I'm assuming it kind of is, I know it's nowhere near, is anything like Nebraska? Nope, not in my list of places to want to go. I may have been through Kansas. I don't know. I'd have to look at a map.
As a point in the chat, because Sparkle Bomb brought it up, it's not aluminum. Like it's a steel chainmail, and that's why I was so impressed with it, because it fucking looked beautiful. But the guy was just insane.
We've all met those. I think. How many have we done? We've done 5. We could chatter for 10 minutes, which doesn't sound horrible. Or we could do one more.
I'd say let's go ahead and get us one more.
One more. Just one more. Oh, it's Saki.
Okay.
Saki, it's so nice to see you. I was talking about you the other day.
Fair enough. Let's do video games. That's something I'm actually semi-knowledgeable about.
Though you never know where this is going to go.
Oh, no, I know.
Video games and gaming can be an addiction. Should there be government limits on its use?
See, when it comes to the governmental influence, I'm not even a big fan of the concept of, like, them... Like, if you're playing your freaking PS Vita while you're driving your car, yeah, no, you should be bitch slapped for that stupid shit. But that's because you're putting other people in danger. If you're not putting anybody else in danger, just let them do it. Just let them go do their stupid shit, and then, you know, when they die from it, fuck them.
You don't think that if someone just logged 10 hours on GTA, that they shouldn't be able to drive a car for maybe an hour or two until they come back down off the game high?
Well, see, they're endangering other people. Like, if they haven't slept, that's endangering other people because you're sleeping way too fucking tired and you might plow into somebody. And if they plow into somebody, yeah, sure, maybe add a year onto their sentence for that kind of stupid shit. But the concept of it is I don't like the concept of government regulation on my home. I bought the goddamn house. Let me live in it, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, well, that is a whole different argument that I have do you own your house?
Yes.
Okay, so there is a whole different argument to be held about the government and regulations and owning your house. For instance, in my area, it is prohibited to have a pool that holds more than 24 inches of water without spending a fortune on regulatory implementations in your yard.
Oh, God.
As well as many other stupid things that I've found out since I've bought my house that I can't do. Or, by the way, apparently I find out some areas require you to get a building permit to change your hot water heater.
Yeah, see, that's just municipal shit.
So
I'm not even on
this is kind of on a funny side question. Obviously, I'm not saying the government should regulate your video gaming. That's bombastic. Okay, it's a little more extreme than I mean it to be, but it was more to put more to blow it out of proportion than anything. But think about this: you currently, we as a society currently have studies that say video games are an addiction, that people easily get addicted to games, and the games are programmed to make people want to continue playing. And I'll agree, I get stuck and hooked on games for long periods, but then I kind of snap out of it and walk away. With knowing that, well, if somebody got hooked on GTA and played 12 hours stealing cars and driving through buildings, should the first thing they do after a game is jump in the car and run to the grocery store?
Probably not. But that leads to personal accountability.
And I'm betting, I'm not 100%, but I'm betting cops indulge in some modern warfare, but probably don't play a lot, knowing that they wouldn't want to go out and make those split-shot decisions when they're on a police stop. So they probably don't play a lot of video games that involve shooting because they realize that that'll affect them. So you have to wonder, at what point, knowing video games have negative effect versus outcome of people playing it, at what point do we realize that video games are starting to control life? Do we try to take over or make games? I remember I've had a few games when the Kinect first came out, or on the Wii, that would intentionally stop and broadcast an alert message that you would have to continue through that says, you've been playing this for this long. Realize that you may not know your muscles are starting to tense up from the work that you're doing. You should probably take a break and walk away for a few minutes. I don't know if anybody else has played those games where you really get into it. The first generation of Wii and the first generation of Kinect, some games had alert messages that would tell you every half an hour or hour that you need to stop and take a break.
They do have those with some of the Steam games. I know Vermintide 2, one of the in-game characters will talk to you if you've been playing for like more than 3 hours. And then he'll have a dialogue option of like, hey, you've been playing a while, maybe it's time to take a break. But if you want to put those into games, sure, just make them a reasonable length. Like
Right.
a minute long. That's it. They have to sit for a minute and they can play for another 2 or 3 hours before they get it up.
One of them would pause the game and come up with the alert message and go, take a break now, press OK when you're done with your break to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just set the game up for you to kind of walk away and go, you know what, you're right, I just need to stretch and go get a drink real quick and then come back. And that kind of helped with my kids. It would get them to sit down and stop jumping in the game and everything for a few minutes. I'd make them take 5 minutes to stop and take a drink, sit for a minute, and then they could play again. It kind of helped. So I'm wondering if maybe that's something the government might be able to do. That wouldn't be the government necessarily placing a limit on its use. It would be the government stepping in to say, okay, you guys need to help provide a way. You're doing all of this to make people want to play your game, which is fine. Just provide a way to let people know they need to take a break because this is an addictive substance that you are leading people into.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, like I said, for, let's say, games targeted specifically towards young children, definitely have that kind of a message in there. But also, the real complication that comes with that is coding it to not do it in the dead center of, like, you're fighting a boss.
Right.
And you're trying to beat this boss, and you've been at it for an hour, and all of a sudden your game pauses out of nowhere, and then you lose. Everybody gets frustrated, and they're losing it because and then you have 400,000 online comments of, this game's terrible, it killed me on a boss. And it
should be more when you go to press OK to respawn, just as you go to press OK, another alert comes up saying, you've been playing for this amount of time, you should take a 5-minute break.
Yeah. Just as long as it's not in a certain area of, like, in the middle of a mob or in the middle of a thing, just like the second you get back to town, bam, there's the alert. That would be understandable. That would be something that I could see putting in there. But, I don't know. Just something about it throws me off the concept of governmental overreach when it comes to regulating how people live their lives in their own home. Like, in some states, they regulate the size of drinks you can buy. Fucking straws were banned in California. Straws,
I laugh about this one continuously. Did you know if you live in Texas, owning 6 or more dildos is a felony?
See? That's what I'm talking about. Like, stay out of my fucking house.
Yeah.
As long as y'all make your laws everywhere else, fine. Do it. I don't care. But if you're making a law that affects my home and how I keep my life, piss off. I want a bendy straw when I get a fucking Coke at the goddamn Applebee's. I don't go to Applebee's very often, and the only reason I go is because fucking Minty wants to go. So when I go there, I want my goddamn bendy straw.
Yeah. And about the straws, it boggles my mind how you can make these 3 crimes, misgendering an elderly person in a nursing home, giving somebody a straw without them asking for it, and knowingly giving somebody AIDS without telling them. These crimes all are a 6-month time in jail or $1,000 fine per offense.
Yeah. And then they just made it to where you don't have to tell somebody if you have HIV. And intentionally infecting somebody else, and you just can just walk away from that. You just handed somebody a fucking death sentence.
Well, we've been through 6 topics today. That's usually a high point for the show. How do you like it?
I think it's a good show, and you want to have me on again sometime, just let me know. But give me a couple of days in advance because Jesus Christ, it's too goddamn early.
Oh, absolutely. I run them on Mondays. I'm going to keep them on Mondays through the summer. When I get back into a period where I have more time during the day to stream in the middle of the day, I'll put the afternoon show back on. I was running 5 shows a week a couple months ago. I might get back to that here in the fall. That way there's more times for people to get on. But I want to have as many people on who want to be here. I love having return guests. There's nothing wrong with having people come back because the questions change. Everything gets swapped out after every show. So hopefully I don't repeat things, but it happens. You know, I'm a numbskull. I screw up.
And of
With
course,
that,
always,
we
you're
are
welcome
here
on
at the
quest.
end. Would you like to share anything in the chat? If you haven't already, chat and I will get you a wrench so you can share your links. The way to get a wrench on my show is to be a guest, for everyone's knowledge. Thank you everybody for joining us today. We ever so appreciate people just coming in to listen, but come on the show sometime. Chicken pot pie. I like chicken pot pie.
But yeah, no, if you ever want on, you're more than welcome on the quest.
Oh, I'm probably caught your show once or twice. I don't think I've caught the whole thing, but I'll have to come check it out. That should have given you a wrench. Drop your link in the chat. I will try and add it on post-edit. And with that, guys...
Jesus, I gotta pull up my own link. I don't usually show myself here.
With that, guys... You know how this goes. At the end of the show, we ask you to do something very, very important. We want you to reach down, open your pants, stick your hand in there, and play with my buttons. Thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. We will see you on Wednesday or something like that. Goodbye.